My sister and mom destroyed the family when they became obsessed with my stalker ex, but now the whole family has excluded them, and they can only speak to me through my lawyer. I started dating my brother's best friend when I was 16. We were together until I graduated high school, at which point he proposed, and I said no. It caused a lot of drama, with my family asking me to reconsider because we could have a long engagement or make some sort of reconciliation promise. My relationship with my 36-year-old brother suffered for a while, but my relationship with my 32-year-old sister never recovered. She was convinced my ex was the best option for me and became unbearable when she started dating my ex's brother. My siblings kept inviting my ex to everything, including some family vacations, but I didn't say anything since he was their friend too. That was until my sister began pushing us to get back together. She tried everything, from setting us up on blind dates to making us share a room on vacations. No matter the occasion, my ex was always invited. After a while, I'd had enough and asked my parents to intervene. They were firm with my siblings and stopped inviting my ex. Things got a bit better, but while my brother stepped back, my sister didn't. Everything fell apart when I met my husband during a semester abroad. He was from another university but the same country, and we just connected. It was magical for me. We got engaged after a year of dating. My family was thrilled for me, except for my sister. She kept insisting that I was in the honeymoon phase and that it would pass. Clearly, it didn't. After countless arguments and attempts to reunite us, I made it clear that if she tried anything else, I would stop talking to her. What did she do after that warning? She made me her maid of honor and asked me to spend all my time with the bridal party, essentially my ex, and assigned one of her friends as my husband's companion. We didn't realize what was happening until the reception, when the poor girl tried flirting with my husband. My sister said it was okay to explore options with other people since we weren't married yet. I left the wedding and talked to my parents and brother the next day, explaining that while I wouldn't make them choose, I would never speak to my sister again, and if they tried to mend things between us, I'd cut them off too. My mom was devastated and tried to negotiate, but my dad and brother said they would respect my decision. Other than 2 attempts by my mom, I haven't spoken, written, or anything with my sister in the past 6 years. My sister has tried everything to reconcile with me, from gifts to tantrums, but I simply don't talk to her at all. If we're at a family event or dinner, I act like she doesn't exist. At first, she made sarcastic comments or tried to stir up drama, but since no one backed her, she gave up. She had a meltdown when she found out she was invited to my wedding, but wouldn't be part of the preparations. My brother says he feels guilty for enabling it for so long, and his relationship with my ex has suffered since they still talk but aren't as close as before. A few weeks ago, at my mom's birthday party, I finally announced we're expecting our first child. It's not the first grandchild, but it is the first granddaughter. Everyone was thrilled, except for my sister. My mom noticed and asked me to have tea with her the next day. My gut told me not to go, but I wanted to be optimistic. The first thing I noticed when I arrived was my sister's car. Then, when I walked in the door, there were my sister, her husband, my ex, and my ex's mom. They wanted to stage an intervention because my childish tactics had gone on too long. My ex said he was just trying to be romantic, but understood that I didn't appreciate it. His mom said I was just hurting my sister for wanting the best for me, and that she had already apologized, so I needed to forgive her. I was texting my family, dad, brother, and husband, while staring at my mom in disbelief. Then my brother-in-law had the audacity to say I was a hurtful person and needed to learn to act like an adult since I was going to have a baby. My mom started reading a letter about how hurt she was because her daughters weren't close, how my sister was wrong but had good intentions, and so on. Then my sister read her letter, started crying, and basically repeated what everyone else said. I didn't say anything to anyone. I just sat there until my brother arrived. He was angrier than I'd ever seen him. He grabbed my things and told them he was truly disappointed and disgusted. We left and sat in his car until my dad and husband arrived. By then, I was just sobbing, and he kept apologizing. I don't know what happened inside, but I emailed everyone, except my mom, with my lawyer's contact information, saying I didn't want to be contacted by any of them ever again and that if they did, I'd go to the police. No one has contacted me, but my dad says my mom and sister are hysterical. They told him they wanted to repair things so my sister could be in my child's life, maybe even as the godmother. My dad is staying with my brother right now. They support me, but some other family members don't. Even mutual friends have called me, worried about my sister's well-being and asking what happened since she's saying my husband is pulling me away from my family. I hate having my business out in the open, but I took the public route and posted a long message on Facebook detailing everything that happened. It's affecting my sister, brother-in-law, and ex, which, while not 100% intentional, I feel they deserve. My mom has been inconsolable, which makes me feel bad, but not as bad as she made me feel with her little intervention. I agreed to have a talk with my mom a few days ago and set ground rules for any future interactions, including therapy, family therapy, clear boundaries, no sharing information about me with my sister, and separate celebrations. Most importantly, if she ever does anything like that again, I'll cut her off completely. She thinks this is too much, but is willing to do it. She thought this meant immediate access to baby news and that everything was resolved, but I told her this was a process and she needed to prove she'd improved. My dad and brother refused to talk to my sister and keep apologizing for not stopping it earlier. We've forgiven them since they were able to move forward and grow. My husband supports whatever I decide, but my mother-in-law isn't sure cutting my mom off from her grandchild is the right path. Ultimately, she says it's my choice. I'm torn about what to do with my mom. Update 1. The edit I wanted to post but couldn't. I want to thank everyone for the amount of support and advice so far. I want to provide some additional information that I've shared in the comments, since there are too many to respond to individually. My ex and I broke up when I was 18. He is now 37. The reason for our breakup was that I didn't want to get married or commit. My sister's insistence stems from her fixation on the idea of us both marrying brothers and being best friends. My mom has always been very kind to my husband, but I'm starting to think it was all a facade, which makes me very sad. My ex has been with other people since we broke up. He also has 2 children with an ex but has never married. My sister says it's very romantic because he's always wanted to marry only me. I should also mention that his obsessive behavior isn't just directed at me. From what I've heard, he acted very similarly toward the mother of his children, but now he's focusing on me because my sister is encouraging him. She says he needs her help to get back into my good graces so she can be a good aunt. My brother began distancing himself from my ex when I told my parents how uncomfortable I felt with my ex always being around. I was living away at university, but would visit my family during breaks. My brother also made a big effort to make my husband feel welcome, which further strained his relationship with my ex, who felt betrayed by my brother. Nowadays, my husband is one of my brother's closest friends, and my brother only talks to my ex when it involves our nephew, my sister's son, or to avoid being rude. Both parents seem to support me not wanting my ex around as much, but I guess only my dad genuinely agreed. On the day of the tea party, my mom told me she was making my favorite tea and desserts, but that my ex wouldn't stay since it was meant to be quality time for the 2 of us. My dad went to hang out with my uncle, thinking it was a kind gesture for my mom. He's furious now. My husband initially tried very hard with my sister when they met, but now he just ignores her and believes she's mentally ill. We don't know if she is or not, but even so, there's no excuse for her behavior. My mom invited my ex's mom because she thought it would be good for me to face the root of my issues with my sister, or at least, that's their official version. Additionally, we aren't Indian, not particularly religious, and my husband and I are of the same race. There's also no wealth disparity between my ex and my husband. If anything, my husband might be slightly better off. Lastly, my sisters-in-law, both my brother's wife and my husband's sisters, are outraged about the situation. My husband and his sisters spoke with my mother-in-law about her comment and made her understand why it was so out of place. As many of you guessed, she's a very loving mother from a close-knit family. My dad and my brother keep apologizing for any role they played in this. My dad can't believe it's come to this and says it still feels surreal to him. However, they support me no matter what and say they're ready to help me fight any ridiculous battles my mom or sister might try to start. Update 2. The current state of my family. I had a conversation with my mom, but she insists she knows what's best, that I'm a bad person, and that she'll get grandparent rights or even custody. I'm none of those things, but it still sent me into a panic, so we sent her a letter about it. My dad has moved out permanently, saying he can't support her terrorizing her own daughter. My brother and his wife have also decided to cut contact with her. I know it seems sudden, but I think I underestimated how desperate I felt after the intervention. My husband later told them that they needed to carefully consider what they valued and be kind and receptive to everything, but that they wouldn't raise a child in a toxic environment. Reason 3,271,637 why I love my husband. My husband is heartbroken about my mom and her falseness, saying she'll never get anything from him. That's the real revenge here. My husband and his sister spoke with my mother-in-law about her comment and made her understand why it was inappropriate. As many of you guessed, she is a loving mother from a loving family. My dad and brother continue apologizing for their part in this. My dad can't believe it's come to this and says it's still surreal for him. Nonetheless, they support me without question and say they're ready to help me fight any ridiculous battle my mom or sister might start. Update 3. I want to thank everyone for the kind messages and words of encouragement. I decided to post here so it wouldn't get deleted like the original. Things are good and bad at the same time, but I'm trying to stay positive overall. My brother and his wife sat down with my nieces and nephews and explained that Grandma is sick and tried to hurt their aunt and little cousin. They explained that Grandma wouldn't be part of their lives anymore, but that didn't mean she didn't love them. It was very hard, but the kids are smart. They also told them that their other aunt wouldn't be in their lives anymore, but they didn't care because they don't like her. Not just because of me, but because she's not good with them either. My mom lost it when she found out and started claiming she has rights and that she'll see her grandkids. My dad is looking for a permanent place, but will stay with us until January, mostly because my brother's mother-in-law is visiting and we have the space. He's very sad. He has already called divorce lawyers, moved bank accounts, etc. He's been getting countless emails, messages, and calls from my mom, but he's not responding to any of them. The lawyer advised him not to block her yet. He considered maybe forgiving her, but I had a spike in my blood pressure a couple of days after my last post here because she decided to show up at my house with my sister. My sister had never been to my house. My mom knew I didn't want her there, but I guess that doesn't matter anymore. The cleaning lady let them in since she knows my mom, and I hadn't had time to inform her that they were no longer allowed to enter. I had just returned from running errands and saw the car, but this time I didn't go in. I called all my family members, and my sister-in-law, my husband's sister, who was closest to me, confronted them and told them to leave or she would call the police for trespassing. They left, and I started feeling unwell. We went to the doctor, and they said all the stress wasn't good and that I needed to start relaxing or I could harm the baby. My dad went home with my brother, my uncle, and my husband, and took everything he could think of. My husband says my sister was also there, still yelling at him that he had destroyed her family. My dad told my mom and sister that they almost killed the baby and that he didn't want to speak to either of them again. My sister kept texting my brother, begging for help, but it's not going to happen. I'm devastated and very sad for my nephew, as he's losing a big part of his family because his mom has some crazy ideas, but it is what it is. As for the custody and grandparent rights my mom keeps throwing around, my lawyer sent her a letter saying that she caused harm to my health and the baby, and if she keeps harassing me, it will become an official legal matter. My brother also sent her a letter regarding her harassment of me. Both my mom and my sister have refused therapy. They may be mentally ill, but with all this coming to light, it's obvious they've been in agreement for a long time. I'm focusing on spending the holidays with my family, staying healthy, and going to therapy. Update 4. Hi, I've received a few requests for an update, and I had some time, so I decided it would be appropriate. I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for your comments, messages, and all the advice, because I feel like we owe you for making us even more paranoid than we were. A couple of people asked what method we used to find out the baby's gender. We announced it after 20 weeks. The reason we waited so long is that we've experienced a loss in the past, and we were preparing to announce when it happened, and we wanted to be sure and have a sense of security about the announcement. Also, we were naive enough to think it would be special for my mom, and they were right. After posting, I handed everything over to my husband, and he read the messages, comments, and advice for a few days. We checked the house, and fortunately, didn't find anything, but we felt extremely unsafe, so we went to a hotel with my dad. But then we realized there was a tracker on my dog's vest. She's a very small dog, and she gets very cold, so she has a cute vest. I never would have thought to look there in a million years, but we discovered the tracker when my dad took her for a walk around the hotel area, and my sister came by to ask him about me and the reconciliation. I was really upset, so we decided to move. Fortunately, we can afford it. We're renting right now and also renting out our old house so it's not left empty. I used to love that house, but now I feel like it's ruined and stained somehow. Sadly, my parents' house feels the same way, not just for me, but for everyone. My brother, husband, dad, sister-in-law, and even my husband's family have changed our numbers, bought new electronic devices, and notified employers, friends, and the police. We've also started therapy and family therapy. My dad and brother feel extreme guilt about the situation, though I've truly forgiven them, but we are healing as a unit. My sister and mom insist they aren't wrong and don't need therapy. My dad made a new will in which my sister's son receives a trust fund and some inheritance, but my sister gets a symbolic amount. He really has ended things with her. I felt bad for her, but I decided to focus my energy on my baby. She's here, and we are blessed. It's not the experience I imagined, since my mom isn't around, but so many friends and family members have really surprised us. In the end, we were so paranoid that we started testing some people we weren't sure about by telling them I was about to give birth. It worked wonderfully. We found out who was still giving information to my mom and sister, and we cut them out. The rest understood when we explained the reason. My ex, who my friends now call Bets, went around saying the baby was his because we've been having a passionate affair due to my eternal love for him. No one believed him, but it made my husband contact Bates's employer and tell them all about the madness. In summary, they suspended him pending an internal review. I'm almost certain they'll fire him, as they've asked us for more and more information and seemed truly remorseful. My mom has tried to find us, but all the people who know our whereabouts have cut contact with her. My dad's lawyer sent her a letter saying that, due to her instability, all communication will go through lawyers from now on. It's been just us and my dad because I felt really bad for him being alone. He's promised me that he'll be okay and that nothing is my fault, but I still feel awful. He has been the best baby caretaker, feeder, and diaper changer in the universe. My nephews are as loving as always, and my dad even had a visit with my sister's son. This came up because she kept making videos threatening to harm herself, and my husband kept pushing her family away, so my dad sent her an email about seeing her son and told her he would call the police over her threats. It seems that has stopped everything. Finally, someone mentioned that I gave Betes false hope. Nothing could be further from the truth. I spent years uncomfortable because I thought he'd get over me. Then, after talking and getting to know my husband, I spent a lot of time struggling with my sister about it. I had a very long engagement, which is why I married after my sister. I still love my mom and sister, but I choose a healthy life for myself and my family over that love. I've discovered so much loyalty, love, and compassion through all of this. As strange as it may seem, I feel lucky that everything exploded. I hope this isn't too rambling. A big hug from me. Update 5. We've officially moved into a new house, with my dad living in the guest house. We've had many discussions, both inside and outside of therapy, and decided that while it would be good for him to be with us, we all need our space. We're still renting the old house, and we'll decide what to do with it later. My dad has the grandkids all together around 3 times a week now. He still has to see my sister's son separately, since she refused to let him take the child unless he knew where he was living, which, to be fair, is normal. But considering she's crazy, we don't want her near. My mom complained to the lawyers about how unfair it is that my dad still gets to see all the grandchildren, but there's nothing she can do about it. About a month ago, my dad told me he had a confession, and my stomach started to hurt. Dear reader, he pays for my sister's son's education and care, which is why she still lets him see him. He felt very guilty for hiding it and didn't want to keep secrets. I assured him that there was nothing wrong with that and that he shouldn't feel bad. On Mother's Day, my dad received an email with a link to an Instagram account where they made a sad video about my mom, talking about how most of her family has abandoned her and how Santa is my sister for being there for her. It was really pathetic, and it infuriated me, but I just forwarded it to the lawyer. My dad officially filed for divorce in May, and the process is still ongoing. My mom insists that he is wrong, but my dad said he'd rather drink bleach than get back with her, so I think that's definitive. My brother and my husband took my dad out for Father's Day, and they had a great time. My sister posted a lot of things that day, but they managed to block my dad so he wouldn't even find out because we wanted him to enjoy the day. They also went on a camping trip with the kids. They went to a hotel, rented a suite, and set up a tent in the middle area for the kids and a small tent for the baby. Honestly, having the baby is one of the best things that has ever happened to me, and seeing my husband be the incredible father I knew he would be makes me so happy. It's exhausting, but we have so much support that I feel grateful beyond anything else because I have my pillars by my side. My sisters-in-law and I now have a little calendar to share things that all the kids can do according to their age and if they want to. We want to share things that all the kids can do according to their age and if they want to. We want everyone to know they don't have to spend time with people they don't like and that their voices matter. Right now, everyone is obsessed with the baby and says they are her protectors, and we have little gatherings, brunches, etc. Honestly, family time is now a pleasure and not a headache without my sister there. I know it's wrong to say it, but she just absorbs the positivity in the room. My mother-in-law also loves spending time with the baby and stays in the guest room about once a week. She kindly asked and said she didn't want to take the baby to stay overnight or anything like that. I feel respected and heard by her, and yes, I've broken down sometimes because I miss my mom so much. I miss the mom I had or thought I had, not the one who told me I'd be a terrible mother or that I was a hateful woman. My therapist says it's a marathon, and to focus on the good. Speaking of the good, my ex was fired. Not only that, but his reputation in his industry was damaged not just mildly, but on a nuclear level. Also, his brother's reputation, but since my brother-in-law isn't in an industry that cares as much about reputation, he still has his job, as far as I know. My ex sent me another 12-page letter, double-sided, apparently single-spaced, about how hurt he is because I'm denying him what is his, and my husband is so threatened by him. He had to go and destroy him professionally because he wouldn't be able to destroy anything else. I said, apparently, because I didn't read it. My lawyer did and gave me a summary. I also heard through rumors, no, I don't ask people. They just tell me since they know he's been harassing me, that his children's mother moved out, and he didn't even care and said it was for the best. This man doesn't even care about his children and wants to play family with me and the baby. Unfortunately, he won't be homeless or anything because his mom already let him move back in with her, so I doubt he'll learn anything from this. It's not the most spectacular update, but it's what it is. Oh, and my husband burned or donated every item given by my mom or my parents with my dad's blessing. He says life is too short to give her space in his life, even with memories. Update 6. Hi Reddit, it's been a while. I have some updates for you, but first I want to thank you for all your comments and messages. Every time I log into this account, I mainly get positive things, and I appreciate it so much. I'm not sure if anyone will read this, but for those who want updates, they are mostly good. That said, let's get to it. My parents are already divorced, after many fights and tantrums from my mom. She kept the house and received a lump sum, but that's it. My dad is like a new man, and we're all very happy for him. A little backstory. When all the drama happened, we didn't fire our cleaning lady. She's a woman who's been helping my husband's family for decades and was very stressed about the idea of losing her job because of what my crazy family did. Also, we're not careless, and she's not on her knees polishing floors or anything like that. In any case, my dad talked to her and told her she was on paid vacation and that until we had a new house, please wait for us if she wanted to, but that she was absolutely not fired. She was very happy about this, and her family too. My dad started receiving food and things from them from time to time because they were very grateful for what he was doing for them. Well, she has a sister who owns her own nail salon, and my dad is dating her now. She's a very lovely woman and has adult children, so she understands the dynamics that sometimes happen. He's been very clear that he's not going to move in or marry her, and she likes that because she enjoys her independence. My mom nearly had a stroke when she found out about his new relationship and kept saying it was a midlife crisis, and that he had to resort to being a sugar daddy. This is obviously what I heard because I have no contact with her. But the last thing I heard is that she's going through a tough time. She's having problems because she was never good at budgeting and depended on my dad to stop the ridiculous shopping. My sister is also having problems because my dad no longer helps her with money. You see, he was willing to keep helping for the sake of my nephew, but then things got really ugly. My nephew started calling my daughter the love affair baby, saying she wasn't with her real dad, called my other nephews delirious, and during a birthday party even pushed one of my husband's nephews, saying they weren't cousins to my daughter, only he was. The kids were perplexed and so confused, but they immediately told an adult. My dad talked to him, but he kept repeating it. He talked to my sister and she said she couldn't do anything to stop a child from saying the truth, and don't they always tell the truth, children? He told her that until there was a change, he was cutting ties. She panicked and cried, but she's also very stubborn, so now my nephew is going to a public school because my husband had my dad cut ties with them. My ex, well, he's still unemployed. I know I was cryptic about it, but he was in an industry related to vulnerable women and some things related to harassment. Ironic, right? That's why he got fired. The organization he was in didn't want this to splash on them. I've received 2 more very long handwritten letters from him, and since he only has my lawyer's address, guess who has the honor of receiving, reading, and filing those ramblings? I love my lawyer, and he's a champion. Aside from that and the gossip, I haven't had any problems related to him except one. I was at the supermarket, and a random woman came up to ask if my daughter was my ex's baby. I was speechless and shocked. I asked her what she was thinking, and she said he has a photo of us on his profile, and I should be ashamed of myself for hurting such a good man. It turns out he's still pushing the narrative that my daughter is his, and that I loved him so much. All of that is old news, but what shocked me the most was the comment about the photo. This wasn't a photo that was public or anything like that. It was sent once to a family group, and that's it. I immediately told my husband, and he was furious but stayed composed. We decided to expose the rat. In summary, it was my dad's 2 sisters feeding information to my mom. My dad was so disappointed but didn't hesitate to cut them off, and they're still begging him to talk to them again. My brother and his family are doing well. We see them a lot, and we've been on a few family vacations since the last update. They're also out of contact with my mom and my sister. My sister-in-law is actually very happy about that because it turns out she wasn't a fan of our mom but kept the peace. My in-laws are still lovely too. Now we allow my mother-in-law to babysit the baby overnight, and she's thrilled about it. Sometimes she has all her grandchildren under one roof, and they all love being with her. She's a former flight attendant, so her favorite game is pretending they're on a plane. In general, they love her, and we know she's good with our daughter, so we don't worry. She had to make her social media private because my mom kept harassing her. I'm sure she's extremely jealous, but she asked for it. Finally, my husband keeps me sane whenever small things come up. We're thinking about whether we should have another baby or maybe adopt one. We haven't decided yet. We have a great support system and the privilege of having these conversations. I still miss my mom a lot. Sometimes I cry when I realize there are milestones I can't share with her anymore, but she's a bad person and my family's safety is more important. Last fun fact, this Father's Day they really went camping. It was great except for the mosquito bites and some badly placed sunburns.